Live from New Delhi, you're watching DT India News Hour, India's voice to the world. I'm Shubhendu Ghosh, coming up in the next hour. Gaza ceasefire set to begin on Sunday. In first phase, 33 Israeli hostages held by Hamas will be swapped for 737 Palestinian prisoners detained by Israel. Russia says its forces captured 2 settlements in Ukraine's eastern Donetsk region. Ukraine hits an oil depot in western Russia's Kaluga region overnight. Impeached South Korean President Yun Sool appears in Seoul court for the first time on Saturday. Supporters rally outside the court. And in a historic move to digitize rural land records, Prime Minister Modi distributes over 6.5 million property cards under Swamitva scheme. After months of conflict and uncertainty, Israel's government has approved a ceasefire deal with Hamas. The truce is set to begin on Sunday, 6:30 GMT, includes a major hostage and prisoner exchange that could mark a significant step towards ending the Gaza conflict. Meanwhile, leader of Lebanon's Hezbollah group on Saturday accused Israel of hundreds of violations of ceasefire to be fully implemented by next week, and warned against testing the patience of the leaders. Here's more.
Israel's government, after its full cabinet meeting, has greenlit a ceasefire and hostage deal with Hamas after months of devastating conflict. The agreement, confirmed by Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's office, marks a critical turning point in the Gaza conflict. The agreement includes a 3-stage truce beginning with a 6-week ceasefire on Sunday. Hostages held by Hamas will be swapped for Palestinian prisoners detained by Israel. In the first phase, 33 hostages, including women, children, and elderly men, will be freed by Hamas. Israel will release 737 Palestinian prisoners in return, as stated by the Israeli Justice Ministry. It had previously published a list of 95 Palestinian prisoners to be released. The Israeli government ratified the ceasefire deal after a 6-hour meeting on early Saturday. Officials say this could mark the beginning of the end for the 15-month-old Gaza conflict.
I support that this excellent deal. We must give here all the hostages. Yeah, it's very good.
I don't think it's a good deal, but I think we need to bring what we can. And I hope everyone will come home alive soon.
I think that it's a good deal because the hostages are coming back home. We are waiting for them a long time. Too much time.
The ceasefire is tied to diplomatic efforts involving both the outgoing US President Joe Biden's team and President-elect Donald Trump, who has claimed credit for brokering the deal. The truce could also ease tensions across West Asia, where the conflict has escalated into Lebanon, Iran, and Yemen. Gaza civilians suffering from hunger, sickness, and cold could finally see the long-awaited and much-needed relief through the ceasefire. Aid trucks carrying food, fuel and medicine are ready to enter once the ceasefire begins. Bureau Report, DD India.
And to talk more about the significance of the Gaza ceasefire, joining me is Mr. Atul Aneja, Foreign Affairs expert. Good evening and welcome, sir.
Thank you.
How significant do you see this moment of truce for the two sides, for the region and beyond, and yet it still appears so fragile?
Yes, Shubhendu, that it is definitely a moment of de-escalation, which is taking place after 15 months of fighting, war, and much more. So it's a positive step in the right direction. But as you said, there is a fragility about it. It's a very lengthy process to conclude this deal. There are several phases which are involved. We are right at the beginning of it.
Right.
The pressures coming from within Israel, while the hostage release is being welcomed, but within Netanyahu's own cabinet, there are people who are saying that certain strategic goals of the war have not been achieved, such as the Israeli control over the Philadelphia corridor, which separates Egypt from Gaza, and under which there are these tunnels which have been used to supply Hamas with war material and much more. So there is opposition within the Netanyahu government. What happens inside the Gaza Strip of late? Right now, we have the supporters of Hamas, which is essentially the so-called resistance front, extremely weakened, which includes the Hezbollah, which Houthis, and frankly, finally, it's Iran. So we have to see what happens on that flank. Right now, they're weakened because you've seen these assassinations of big icons of Hezbollah who were killed by the Mossad.
Right.
And then you have a regime change in Syria where Bashar al-Assad, who was a supporter again of Hamas, is out. And then you have Houthis weakened and Iran finally, frankly, looking inwards. So right now, I think it's going to hold for a while. How long is the big question, Shubhendu? And there are several red flags there, which have the potential of igniting the conflict once again.
Right, and so part of the reason many experts look at it as a fragile deal is because similar attempts at ceasefire were made earlier as well. What, according to you, seems to have worked better this time? You mentioned some of the geopolitical changes and realities in Syria, vis-a-vis Russia. Also, America, President-elect Donald Trump takes oath in just about a day's time, a day after, in fact, the ceasefire comes into play. Do these changes also had a role to play in what was achieved in Gaza?
Absolutely, Shubhendu. The major changes coming in the United States. And we had clear signals coming from the incoming Trump administration, from President Trump himself, of it's a kind of a zero tolerance towards Hamas. Very clear pro-Israel statements coming out from there. So the Hamas was under pressure over here from the American administration. I think that played a crucial role. And secondly is also the pressure coming on the Netanyahu government from Trump that there were leaks of a statement by Trump not particularly laudable towards Netanyahu. So I think that factor worked on both sides to push for this deal. Second thing, Shubhendu, is the fatigue factor. You got this for 15 months. There would be a tipping point and it's coming now. So that's another factor. Internal pressure from the people of Israel for the release of the hostages. That's another factor which has come in. So it's a combination of the 4 or 5 factors, I think. But if you look at the new factor, I think it's the Trump factor, which has been sort of, the last straw on the camel's back, as they say, which has finally got the ceasefire deal through.
And so what do you think is at stake for the Israeli leader Benjamin Netanyahu? You mentioned about his right-wing colleague also putting pressure on him to not go ahead with the deal, with the certain objectives that they had initially have not been achieved. But it seems like a choice between power and peace for him, because if his right-wing allies desert him, his government is weakened.
Yeah, but it's not so easy for the ultra-right to leave the government, Shubhendu, because, there's going to be, once the hostages start getting released, there's an emotional element to it. You need to have Israeli public, actually welcoming, and as some of the statements which came from your report earlier, people want this deal to come through. So it'll be very hard for any ultra-right government to defy public opinion, which will swing. You will see as things happen from tomorrow onwards, there's going to be a shift in public opinion. So it won't be so easy for the ultra-right to sort of depart from the government and make Netanyahu's government unsustainable. And second thing is, Shubhendu, down the line, I think a lot of things will change after the hostages are released in the first phase. A new dynamic comes into play, because then the strategic issues will come into play, where after the emotions are a little low, about what have you gained in the war. I think that will be the time. I'm worried about a phase 3 and phase 4. Will the Israeli military leave the Philadelphia corridor? That's a crucial bit of, it's a small bit of 14-kilometer territory. but very, very crucial in terms of if you're an Israeli from the Israeli security perspective, because if that is not under control, then there is always a danger of that corridor and the tunnels underneath, though destroyed right now, but later down the line, being used once again to revive Hamas. So that's going to be a concern.
Just to add to the point that you're making, sir, also what happens to Hamas at the end of this ceasefire, at this end of this conflict? Because initially the narrative that the Israeli leadership had invested in was a complete elimination of Hamas, which does not seem to be happening at the moment.
Shubhendu, Hamas is definitely weakened. Now you have people like Sinwar or Ismail Hania. I mean, they've all been killed by now. So it's a very weakened Hamas right now. What you have is people of Hamas who had moved from Damascus at one time, where the Bashar government had given them shelter, to Doha in Qatar, which is people like Khalid Mashal, etc. They're not really, they're not lived in Gaza. I mean, compared to Hania or Sinwar, they are a much diluted form of Hamas. But the point here is also, Shubhendu, is the prisoner release. Now, that's many of these prisoners are serving life sentences. There's many of them are very hardcore militants. So with the release, what options do Israelis have? One is don't do anything, and you're kicking the can down the road in a way, because some of these can emerge as leaders of the future. Plan B, is there a deal within the Israeli cabinet? Okay, we have to release them now. We've got to get the hostages down. But in the past, Israelis have gone after some of these hardcore elements from Hezbollah, for example. I remember a guy called Samir Kuntar. He was released from jail, but shortly afterwards, or maybe within a year or so, he was eliminated by the Israeli military. So, these are the kind of things which would have been discussed within, I suppose, inside the Israeli cabinet between the ultra-right and Netanyahu. So we'll see. But I think the danger really from an Israeli perspective is the revival of Hamas with the prisoner release, not by the people who will immediately come into leadership positions.
Could they have a role to play in the governance of the region as well in the future, the Gaza region, say after second phase, sir?
Not so soon. You see, they're also going to lie low because they know the Israeli behavior, how they react. So I think we are looking a little further down,
Right.
Shubhendu. My analysis would be that maybe a year from now, once you'll probably have the regrouping of Hezbollah also taking place by that time. What happens between Iran and Israel would also have been clear. So there'll be a new situation which will arise. So I don't think immediately there's a danger of the ceasefire breaking.
But it is a great news of relief for perhaps the people who've faced the worst brunt of this conflict, the people, the civilians of Gaza. And what would the reconstruction look like, and what kind of investment efforts would go into it, according to you?
Shubhendu, right now what we are having is the humanitarian side is moving. You have the trucks waiting, and you're going to have food and other things coming in. So, and other medical supplies, hospital reconstruction. I think those are going to be, the humanitarian dimension is going to be first. But then you have almost the entire city, turn into a moonscape. Now that's going to require big sort of financial investments coming in. And I don't see people investing so soon unless they have sure guarantees that, it's going to stay for some more time. So I think there are going to be two phases. The first is the immediate, which is relief for the people of Gaza. That will come. And then the phase two, and that will depend on both Philadelphia corridor and also, Shubhendu, there is another corridor called Netzarim corridor, which divides Gaza, North Gaza from the southern side. Israeli forces are right now in Netzarim corridor. According to the deal, they're supposed to withdraw from there. So, that's a big if, I would say, because of domestic pressures inside Israel. If the Israelis do, and there's a deal for that, or an understanding, then you will have the first two, I think, kicking in of bigger investments coming into Gaza and reconstruction taking place.
Right, so and finally, peace in Gaza, as and when it is achieved, what could it mean for the region of West Asia as a whole? We've seen many sparks flying in the past year, many actors coming into play, global trade being affected in the Red Sea. How do you see the region also looking at this opportunity?
Yeah, so the first thing is the trade element, Shubhendu, Red Sea trade. What happens because the Houthis, without the network being there, how long can they sustain it? I think that's likely to begin. Second is, the Trump factor comes in here again. He's the architect of the Abraham Accords. He wants this to be diffused so that he moves into this bigger strategic project of expansion of Abraham Accords to get countries like Saudi Arabia into it. And the third element from an Indian perspective is that if there is peace over there and in Israel, can we really see the IMEC connectivity corridor taking off? Okay. And finally, it's the energy prices. I think these are the four vectors which we can see down the line if we have a stable peace in this geography.
On that note, thank you very much, sir, for joining us on the NewsHour and sharing your perspective. And still to come on DD India NewsHour. Severe cold forces President-elect Donald Trump's inauguration inside the US Capitol. This is the first time in 40 years. Tik Tok says it will go dark on Sunday in the US without assurance from Biden. And Malaysia kicks off ASEAN chairmanship with foreign ministers retreat in Langkawi.
What will be Trump 2.0's foreign policy outlook? Can we expect something different this time? How will different countries adjust to Trump's disruptive as well as unusual presidency?
The optimistic scenario, which I think Donald Trump actually wants to see, is essentially a great power concert. He wants a world in which the United States and China and Russia and India, great powers, and to quote Thucydides, he likes to live in a world where great powers, do what they can, and weaker powers suffer what they must.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India NewsHour. I'm Shubhendu Ghosh. US President-elect Donald Trump announced on Friday that his inauguration ceremony is set to take place on 20th of January will be relocated indoors due to extremely cold temperatures forecast in the nation's capital. The event that is traditionally held in front of the US Capitol will now take place inside the congressional complex. The planned parade of military regiments down Pennsylvania Avenue has also been scrapped and will instead be held at Capitol One. It's the first time since 1985 inauguration of Ronald Reagan that such an emergency measure has been taken due to dangerously cold weather in Washington, D.C. The outgoing US President Joe Biden, just 2 days before his departure from the White House, declared Equal Rights Amendment as law of the land. This will make women of the United States feel more empowered. The law relates to equality of gender in all respects under US Constitution. The declaration mentions equality of rights under the law shall not be denied or abridged by United States or by any state on account of sex. This enshrines the change into the US Constitution more than a century after the guarantee of gender equality was first proposed. Supporters of the Equal Rights Amendment have long waited for this amendment to ensure that women's rights are safeguarded under the US Constitution. In a statement, President Biden emphasized that ERA would provide critical constitutional protection for women, would send a clear message about America's commitment to gender equality.
I affirm the Equal Rights Amendment to have cleared all the necessary hurdles to be added to the U.S. Constitution now. The Equal Rights Amendment is the law of the land now. It's the 28th Amendment to the Constitution now.
Meanwhile, outgoing U.S. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin highlighted the strides made by the United States under the Biden administration. During his farewell speech delivered on Friday, Austin noted the U.S. made sweeping upgrades to its position in the Indo-Pacific, intensely focusing on challenge posed by China, prevented an all-out war in the Middle East, and rallied the world towards the cause for Ukraine. Referring to the incoming Trump administration, Austin said the American democracy is not a sprint, but a relay race, and he's very proud of what they achieved over the past 4 years. The U.S. strengthened its defense ties across several fronts under Biden administration. This included the rekindling of the Quad alliance that comprises India, US, Japan, and Australia, and also deepening engagements with the ASEAN and Taiwan. Ahead of Donald Trump's presidential inauguration, US-Canada relations have started to become rocky. Canada has announced retaliatory measures in the face of Trump's plans to slap 25% tariffs on Canadian imports. Here's more by DD India's Akshay Hansta.
US-Canada relations turn to get more sour as Canadian Foreign Minister Melanie Joly announced to hit Americans with Trump tariff tax if US's incoming President Donald Trump increases custom duties on Canadian products. According to government sources, Ottawa is considering higher duties on goods from the United States, including steel products, ceramics like toilets and sinks, glassware, and orange juice, in a first phase of tariffs that could be extended. Canadian people too are angry over Trump's overtures to make Canada as 51st state of the USA. To show their displeasure, Canadians are wearing hats bearing the words "Canada is not for sale," modelled after the Make America Great Again. Liam Mooney, an entrepreneur from Ottawa, introduced this campaign. Gloomy atmosphere can be seen at American border town of Derby Line and its Canadian twin Stansted, where people have been living in harmony for more than 2 centuries.
And the US House of Representatives passed a bill on January 15 that aims to reduce tax payments, prevent double taxations, and provide tax exemptions for Taiwanese businesses, residents, and employees in the US. As per a media report in Taiwan titled "The United States-Taiwan Expedited Double Tax Relief Act," the act was passed in the House by 423 to 1 vote. It will now be sent to the US Senate for a vote. If approved, will be sent to the American president to be signed into law. The main aim of the bill is to prevent double taxation between the US and Taiwan. Seeks to amend the current US tax laws to provide tax exemptions for eligible Taiwanese residents in the US and to lower withholding tax rates on income from specific sources in the US, such as dividends and interest, according to a report. In a significant development, the bill would seek to enact the United States-Taiwan Tax Agreement Authorization Act, which would authorize the US president to negotiate and enter into a tax agreement relative to Taiwan. The US Treasury will take extraordinary measures next week to avoid a government debt default. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen made the announcement on Friday. These extraordinary measures are a way for the Treasury to ensure that the US government can keep paying its bills and avoid a hugely destabilizing debt default. With the government reaching its borrowing limit, the measures are likely to begin from 21st January, just a day after Donald Trump's inauguration as the President of the United States. Popular video application platform Tik Tok has issued a warning that it will shut down in the US on Sunday unless the government provides assurance that it won't be punished for violating a looming ban. The outgoing US President Joe Biden said the next president will make the decision on the future of TikTok. The warning comes after Supreme Court of America upheld a law banning TikTok in the US, citing national security concerns due to its Chinese parent company ByteDance. The court's 9-0 ruling has left TikTok's future uncertain, with its 170 million American users in limbo. Meanwhile, President-elect Donald Trump has vowed to intervene and save TikTok after taking office on Monday. TikTok CEO Shouzi Chu thanked Trump for the support.
On behalf of everyone at TikTok and all our users across the country, I want to thank President Trump for his commitment to work with us to find a solution that keeps TikTok available in the United States. This is a strong stand for the First Amendment and against arbitrary censorship.
Shifting focus, Russia launched a fresh airstrike on central Ukrainian Kiev early on Saturday. According to the officials, at least 4 people were killed in the attack. Furthermore, 14 people, including 4 children, were also injured in the strike. A total of 24 drones and 2 ballistic missiles were destroyed by the Ukrainian forces. Kiev Mayor Vitaly Klitschko said air defenses were in operation around the city. Ukraine's Air Force had earlier warned of a ballistic missile threat, said it had detected a high-speed target heading towards the city. The attack comes a day after a delegation of senior UN officials met Zelensky in Kiev to discuss ways to strengthen humanitarian support for Ukraine. Russia and Iran signed a comprehensive strategic partnership treaty on Friday to strengthen their economic and military cooperation. Both sides termed the treaty as a major milestone in their relations. The treaty, signed by Russian President Vladimir Putin and his Iranian counterpart Masoud Pezeshkian, will boost cooperation in a range of areas, including security services, military drills, warship port visits, and joint officer training.
The treaty that we signed today creates an additional, as I have already said, substantial foundation for building relation of a trustful nature. This is a treaty about our priorities, about fulfilling our priorities. This is a treaty that allows us to strengthen our bilateral ties in the interest of the people of Iran and the Russian Federation.
Shifting focus to the Asia-Pacific, impeached South Korean President Yun Sool appeared at a Seoul Western District Court for the first time on Saturday to attend a hearing that will decide his fate on whether to extend his detention on accusations of insurrection. The District Court will review the hearing, with the decision expected to be announced soon. If approved, the new warrant will likely extend Yoon's detention by 20 days. Yoon was arrested by investigators over his alleged involvement in a failed martial law bid. Meanwhile, police has detained at least 16 people who are protesting outside the compound of District Court to defend the impeached president. Thousands of Yoon supporters had a face-off with police outside the court. Malaysia has officially launched its ASEAN chairmanship with the opening of ASEAN Foreign Ministers' Retreat that began on Saturday in Langkawi, Kedah. The retreat, which runs through January 19th, marks the first of a series of high-level meetings under Malaysia's leadership of the regional bloc this year. Senior officials and foreign ministers from ASEAN member states have gathered on the scenic island to engage in crucial discussions on regional and global issues. Let's now take a look at other stories making news around the world. Migrants with CBP-1 appointments queued at the border with the United States in the Mexican city of Ciudad Juarez, hoping to apply for asylum ahead of Trump's inauguration. Donald Trump had pledged tougher border controls and immigration enforcement. In a major setback, the Colombian President Gustavo Petro suspended peace talks with leftist National Liberation Army on Friday after accusing the group of committing war crime in Catatumbo region. Authorities in El Salvador seized 4.3 tons of cocaine in an operation conducted in early January. Attorney General Rodolfo Delgado said the busted drugs were valued at over $100 million. During the operation, 4 boats were seized and 9 people of Colombian and Ecuadorian origins detained. And still to come on DD India NewsHour. India's External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar delivers 19th Nane Palkhiwala Memorial Lecture in Mumbai, speaks on India's Act East policy. Republic Day 2025 parade practice underway on Kartavya Path. And we bring you stories and updates from the ongoing Mahakumbh 2025.
The Mahakumbh Mela is not just a spiritual gathering, it's a vibrant cultural celebration. Artists, performers from all over the country and beyond come here to showcase their talent. We see a shared humanity where heritage is preserved, cultures converge, and unity is forged through devotion and mutual respect.
What will be Trump 2.0's foreign policy outlook? Can we expect something different this time? How will different countries adjust to Trump's disruptive as well as unusual presidency?
The optimistic scenario, which I think Donald Trump actually wants to see, is essentially a great power concert. He wants a world in which the United States and China and Russia and India, great powers, and to quote Thucydides, he likes to live in a world where great powers, do what they can and weaker powers suffer what they must.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India NewsHour. I'm Shubhendu Ghosh. Our top stories. Gaza ceasefire set to begin on Sunday. In first phase, 33 Israeli hostages held by Hamas will be swapped for 737 Palestinian prisoners detained by Israel. Impeached South Korean President Yun Sool appears in Seoul court for the first time on Saturday. Supporters rally outside the court. And in a historic move to digitize rural land records, Prime Minister Modi distributes over 6.5 million property cards under Swamitwa scheme. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi distributed some 6.5 million property cards to property owners via video conferencing today. The cards were distributed under the Swamitwa scheme to property owners in 50,000 villages across 10 states and union territories. Speaking on the occasion, Prime Minister termed the day as historic for the rural economy. He said over 2 crore 25 lakh property documents have been issued in the last 5 years. Since the implementation of Swamitwa scheme, the scheme was launched by Prime Minister with a vision to enhance the economic progress of rural India. This included providing record of rights to households owning houses in inhabited areas of villages via drone technology for surveying. In his address, Prime Minister hailed the property cards as a security for beneficiaries.
कानूनी दस्तावेज मिलने के बाद लाखों लोगों ने अपने घर, अपनी संपत्ति के आधार पर बैंकों से लोन लिया है। इस पैसे से उन्होंने गांव में अपना छोटा मोटा व्यापार शुरू किया है। इनमें से बहुत सारे छोटे और मझोले किसान परिवार हैं। इनके लिए ये प्रॉपर्टी कार्ड आर्थिक सुरक्षा की बड़ी गारंटी बन चुके हैं। अवैध कब्जों से, कोर्ट में लंबे विवादों से हमारे दलित, पिछड़े और आदिवासी परिवार ही सबसे अधिक परेशान थे, उससे वही प्रभावित थे। अब कानूनी प्रमाण मिलने से उनको इस संकट से मुक्ति मिल रही है।
In Ladakh, Lieutenant Governor Dr. B.D. Mishra presided over Swamitwa property card distribution program in Kargil. The event witnessed distribution of over 15,000 property cards to beneficiaries from Ladakh under Swamitwa scheme. In a statement, Lieutenant Governor emphasized the transformative potential of Swamitwa scheme, describing it as a pioneering initiative in rural governance. He highlighted the economic benefits of formalized property rights and assured citizens of robust implementation of the scheme in Ladakh. Singapore's President Tharman Shanmugaratnam visited Raghurajpur village in India's eastern state of Odisha on Saturday. He explored its heritage, craft and artisanal diversity. He was accompanied by his wife, Jane Yumiko Itogi. On Friday, the visiting leader visited Crafts Museum and appreciated the vibrant culture display at Kalabhumi. He's on a 4-day state visit to India from January 14th to 18th. The visit also marks commencement of the celebrations of 60th anniversary of establishment of diplomatic relations between India and Singapore. India's Vice President Jagdeep Dhankar arrived at Agati Island today as part of his 3-day official visit to the Union Territory of Lakshadweep. Vice President and his wife were formally welcomed at the Agati Airport by Lakshadweep Administrator Praful Patel. Vice President was accorded Guard of Honour by the Armed Forces and by a school band reception. As part of Prime Minister Narendra Modi's Har Ghar Jal initiative, Vice President inaugurated a low-temperature thermal desalination plant on the island of Chetilat. The facility, capable of producing some 1.5 lakh litres of potable water daily from seawater, has been made operational. In addition, under Viksit Bharat, Viksit Lakshadweep program, Vice President inaugurated a modern Nandaghar Anganwadi Centre on Kalpeni Island and an international standard tent city in tourism sector on Bangaram Island. Vice President also distributed laptops, bicycles, Kisan credit cards, PMJ cards, beneficiary cards under various central government schemes. including Pradhan Mantri Surya Ghar Muft Bijli to eligible beneficiaries. India's External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar delivered the 19th Nani A. Palkiwala Memorial Lecture in Mumbai, in the Indian state of Maharashtra. Jaishankar talked about various aspects of India's Act East policy. He said emergence of multipolar Asia is prerequisite for a multipolar world.
That the emergence of a multipolar Asia is an essential prerequisite for a multipolar world. For India, this engagement is a logical extrapolation of its Act East policy that initially focused on the ASEAN. It also reflects a deeper engagement with Japan and with Australia, two fellow members of the Quad mechanism, as also with South Korea.
The minister also spoke about deeper ties that India and Russia share since decades.
As a major power of the Eurasian landmass, Russia has long held importance for India's foreign policy. Despite all the ups and downs that the world has seen since 1945, this is actually one relationship that has largely held steady. For decades, Russia has had a salience in India's national security calculus. Currently, as Russia is redirecting its attention towards Asia, there is actually a further logic that is emerging. Deeper economic cooperation between India and Russia has a stabilizing consequence for the global economy. The connectivity potential of the collaboration also holds great promise. India's expanding footprint will inevitably meet Russia's influence in many regions.
India's Minister of Information and Broadcasting, Railways, Electronics and IT, Ashwini Vaishnav, held meeting with Maharashtra Chief Minister Devendra Fadnavis in Mumbai on Saturday. A single platform for Mumbai's urban transportation will be launched soon, which will comprise metro rail, suburban railways, best buses among others. The journey can be carried through a single ticket and the app will display all the information right from the starting point towards the destination. The meeting today saw the onboarding of various stakeholders and Mumbaikars will receive the gift of the app soon. Speaking to the press, the Chief Minister said under guidance of Minister Vaishnav, the single platform system will be launched soon and Mumbaikars will be able to travel seamlessly.
इस प्लेटफॉर्म पर हमारी मेट्रो होगी, इस पर हमारी मोनो होगी, इस पर हमारी बेस्ट की बस होगी, इस पर हमारी एमएसआरटीसी की बस होगी, इस पर हमारी सबअर्बन रेलवे जो मुंबई की लाइफलाइन है वो भी इसी के ऊपर होगी. तो सिंगल टिकट पर, सिंगल प्लेटफॉर्म पर कोई भी व्यक्ति जर्नी कर पाएगा, अपने ऐप के थ्रू अपनी जर्नी प्लान कर पाएगा. ऐप उसको आर्टिफिशियल इंटेलिजेंस का उपयोग करके उसका नियरेस्ट स्टेशन कहाँ है या कौन सा पब्लिक ट्रांसपोर्ट उसको नियरेस्ट उपलब्ध है ये बताएगा.
The budget session of India's Parliament will begin on 31st January. It will start with President Draupadi Murmu addressing a joint session of the upper and lower house of Parliament. Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman will present the Union budget on 1st February. The first phase of the session will run from January 31st to February 13th. The second phase will take place from March 10th to April 4th. A local court in West Bengal's Kolkata on Saturday convicted police volunteer Sanjay Roy of rape and murder of a trainee doctor. Court will pronounce Sanjay Roy's sentence on Monday. The case pertains to a 31-year-old trainee doctor who was found dead in the seminar hall of R.J. Kar Medical College and Hospital in Kolkata on August 9th, 2024. This led to arrest of a police volunteer, Sanjay Roy, by Kolkata police the subsequent day. Winter chills continue to grip northern Indian states with dense fog and cold waves disrupting daily life. In the national capital region, a thin layer of fog blanketed New Delhi and nearby areas, reducing visibility on early Saturday morning. Several trains are delayed at the New Delhi railway station. Few flights have been delayed at the Indira Gandhi International Airport due to poor visibility. Meanwhile, in Uttar Pradesh, a dense fog has enveloped Prayagraj, adding challenge for pilgrims attending the Mahakumbh. Authorities are urging travellers to exercise caution amid low visibility. Sharing the weather predictions for Sunday, IMD scientist Dr. Soma Sen Roy provided details about prevailing fog conditions, rain and temperature rise.
What we are forecasting for tomorrow morning is that there will be fog conditions likely over this North Indian belt, that means Punjab, Haryana, Uttar Pradesh as well as North Rajasthan. That is tomorrow morning, 19th. Lesser distribution but similar intensity fog, that means fewer places but very dense fog may be available. In fact, over the hilly regions, Western Himalayan region, it is likely to continue. Rainfall is likely to continue for the next 5 days. There's a deep easterly moist wind incursion from the Bay of Bengal. Temperatures are likely to rise slightly over this region of Kumbh Mela, which is Prayagraj.
Due to night-long cloud cover, minimum temperatures across Jammu and Kashmir improved, bringing some respite for the people. However, minimum temperatures still remained below the freezing point in most parts of Kashmir Valley and Chenab region. Met Department has cautioned tourists, travellers, transporters about sub-zero temperatures and icy conditions on roads, especially over critical mountain passes and higher altitudes. Also, train service, which was suspended after heavy snowfall in Banihal-Baramulla section of Jammu and Kashmir, has been fully cleared and restored through the snow clearance operation. For the latest, DD India's Tahir Nadeem joins us live from Bhadarwah, Jammu and Kashmir. Tahir, take us through what the weather looks like today and how has the connectivity and transportation improved a bit?
Well, Shubhendu, as you said that last night there was overcast skies which continued till forenoon and afternoon. Sun came out of the sky, as you can see right now behind me. There are scattered clouds and sun have come out of the sky, which improved this temperature a bit, much to the relief of locals and tourists as well. This is going to help restore the road connectivity because icy roads are there and majority of the roads, interior roads and which pass through higher reaches like Chhatargala, which is located on Bhadrawa Pathankot Interstate Road and Bhadrawa Chamba Interstate Road, where is Padri Gali. It may help because the territory after long time, I think after 20 days have come out of the sub-zero territory, this region, and this will be helpful to remove the ice from this region and restore the traffic. Right now, here the sky is a bit overcast, but clouds are scattered and sun has come out of these clouds. And as you said, the connectivity has been restored on that Banihal-Baramulla railway section because on Banihal-Badgam section it was closed after the after this snowfall on Thursday. But today, entire Banihal-Baramulla section, the train service has been restored. As far as road connectivity is concerned, only highway which connects Kashmir with Jammu which passes through Banihal and that Kazikund, that has been restored. That is going on smoothly. Traffic is going on smoothly on that road. But the other two roads which connect Jammu region with Kashmir, one passes through Pir Ki Gali, that is Mughal Road, from Rajouri at Poonch. That has not, traffic has not been allowed on that road as well, and the other road which passes through Kishtwar district of Jammu region and which passes through an altitude of 12,000 feet above sea level, which is Sinthan Top, the traffic has not been restored on that road as well. And if you talk about interstate roads, there are 3 interstate roads in Jammu and Kashmir which connect this UT with the rest of the India. Only one of them is functional right now, that is which passes through Lakhanpur, Jammu. But the 2 roads which pass through Bhadarwah, one is Bhadrawa Pathankot highway, that has not been restored for the traffic because of the icy conditions from Thanthera to Chhatargala Pass, which is located at 12,200 feet above sea level. And the other road, which is Bhadrawa Chamba Interstate Road, that is also closed because at Padri Gali, which is the highest point on this road, there is also snow has accumulated and icy road conditions are there and taking this safety of the passengers and travelers. District administration has ordered that this road should not be closed for the time being.
Okay. Tahir, thank you for those updates. Indian Armed Forces are in the final stages of preparations for 76th Republic Day Parade, showcasing a harmonious blend of tradition, discipline, cutting-edge technology. The parade promises to reflect the strength, diversity and resilience of the nation. The parade will feature 6 different marching contingents representing Indian Army's rich history and valor. Accompanying these contingents, the Army Band will provide a captivating backdrop featuring patriotic and martial music that embodies the spirit of the armed forces. A grand mounted cavalry will also grace the parade, symbolizing the enduring traditions of the Indian Army. The equipment display will highlight the operational readiness and technological prowess of the armed forces. This year's parade will exemplify the armed forces' dedication to nation safety and progress while celebrating the strides made in indigenization and self-reliance under Atmanirbhar Bharat initiative. India and the US have signed MOU to enhance cooperation in cybercrime investigations. The MOU allows respective agencies of the two countries to step up level of cooperation and training with respect to the use of cyber threat intelligence and digital forensics in criminal investigations. Cybercrime has intricate linkages with common security challenges faced by India and the US, such as terrorism and violent extremism, terror financing, drug trafficking, organized crime, human trafficking, illegal migration, money laundering and transportation security. Some news coming in from Bangladesh. The Constitution Reform Commission, appointed by Chief Advisor Dr. Muhammad Yunus administration, recommended removal of words like secularism, nationalism, socialism from the Constitution. The commission, led by Professor Ali Riaz, also proposed a bicameral parliament for the country, a 2-term limit on a premier's tenure, and reinstatement of the provision for referendum to amend the constitution. The Article 8 of the current constitution of Bangladesh defines secularism as the fundamental principle of state policy, along with democracy, socialism and nationalism, and yet Islam has been a state religion of Bangladesh since 1988. Earlier in November, just after resuming the office, Dr. Yunus's administration had called for removing socialism and secularism from the country's constitution. According to agency reports, it was argued that socialism and secularism do not reflect the realities of a nation where 90% of the population is Muslim. It was advocated that there should be emphasis on unwavering faith in Allah. Indeed, India correspondent Naval Singh Parmar joins us from Dhaka on the phone line. Naval, if you could just take us through the implications of the recommendations by the Reform Commission, removal of words like secularism, nationalism, something that we understand form the bedrock of the state of Bangladesh. What does it mean?
Advocate General of the Bangladesh after the taking over by the Chief Advisor, Mr. Yunus. Dr. Yunus, he, as you mentioned, that he called for the removal of the word secularism, nationalism, as well as socialism from the Constitution of Bangladesh, which was inscribed, since the 1972 of Mujibist Constitution. The argument is that the majority population here in Bangladesh is Muslim, and that is 90% of the population, and they said that it doesn't reflect the reality of the country. But the nationalism and secularism are, as you mentioned, are the bedrock of any country or in modern nations or the secular country where the multi-ethnic, multi-linguistic, multi-religious populations are living. And that is the reality of Bangladesh. Here around 10% of the population belong to either Hindus or Buddhists or Christians or other indigenous religious people. So they have their says, and they have Bangladesh is their motherland. So they are demanding that it should be there in the Constitution of Bangladesh, and this land belongs to everyone who are Bengali or Bangladeshis. So definitely there were a opposition from the liberal Bengalis as well as the other minority communities against this kind of movement. But the government, current dispensation, interim government is heavily relying on the support of the fundamentalist parties, and the fundamentalist elements are pressurizing to this government to remove the word like secularism, nationalism, and the socialism. In fact, the earlier two government of BNP as well as Awami League, since the 1988, the word Islam made the state religion of Bangladesh, and in 1977, just after the 5 years of the liberation of Bangladesh, the word secularism was removed from the constitution. But in the 2010, the Bangladesh High Court ruled that the secularism and the nationalism and these words are the bedrock of the Bengali constitution, Bangladesh constitution.
And Naval Singh Parmar, thank you for joining us with those updates. In Sri Lanka, Jaffna's Cultural Centre, renamed as Thiruvalluvar Cultural Centre on Saturday, India's High Commissioner to Sri Lanka, Santosh Jha, and Sri Lankan Religious and Cultural Affairs Minister Hiniduma Sunil Senevi announced the renaming of the Cultural Centre to honour the great Tamil poet-philosopher Thiruvalluvar. Thiruvalluvar Cultural Centre is built with Indian grant assistance of $12 million. It includes a museum, a 600-seat auditorium, and an 11-storey learning tower. Let's now take a look at other stories making news. The indigenously designed and built guided missile destroyer INS Mumbai is participating in the 4th edition of multinational exercise La Pérouse. The exercise aims to develop common maritime situational awareness along with conduct of progressive training and information sharing. India's Defence Minister Rajnath Singh offered prayers and performed Ganga Aarti in Prayagraj after taking a holy dip at Triveni Sangam on Saturday. 3 Rohingyas, including 2 women, were arrested from a platform of Sialta railway station in Kolkata on Saturday. The TT got suspicious after seeing them roaming around aimlessly. The arrested are citizens of Myanmar. They could not provide any valid documents for entering India legally. Time for updates from the world of sports. And let's see, in Indian squad, Captain Rohit Sharma will lead the Indian squad at the ICC Champions Trophy 2025 with aim to win the title for the first time since 2013. Fast bowler Jasprit Bumrah is included in the squad. However, his participation remains contingent on fitness. Hence, Harshit Rana has been added as his backup. If Bumrah plays, the returning Mohammad Shami will also make his comeback to India's ODI setup. India's most successful bowler from 2024, Arshdeep Singh, will join the squad as third frontline seamer. Shubman Gill has been appointed as the team's vice-captain, taking over the reins from KL Rahul. Yashasvi Jaiswal has earned his maiden ODI call-up after stellar performance in tests last year. Along with him, Virat Kohli, Gill, Rahul and Shreyas Iyer will share the batting responsibility. The same squad will play the 3 ODI series against England starting February 6th. Second seed Iga Swiatek charged into the 4th round of Australian Open after defeating Emma Raducanu 6-1, 6-0 on Saturday. Both the players have been former US Open champions. Polish number 1 Swiatek targeted Raducanu's backhand to win the last 11 games of the contest and reached the last 16 in Melbourne for the 5th time. 5 times Grand Slam champion Swiatek, whose best performance in Melbourne was a run to semi-finals in 2022, has yet to drop a set this year on her way to the 4th round, where she will play lucky loser Eva Lace or Jacqueline Christian. In other matches, 8th seed Emma Navarro joined American charge with 6-4, 3-6, 6-4 with win over Tunisian Ons Jabeur in a topsy-turvy match. Meanwhile, in men's category, top seed Yannick Sinner will resume his title defense against unseeded Marcos Giron in the 3rd round match today. America's Lerner Chien became the youngest man to reach the Australian Open 4th round in 20 years after beating Corentin Moutet on Saturday. World number 121, Chien toppled the much-experienced Moutet at Akea Arena less than 2 months after his 19th birthday. Chien, his win in the Battle of Left-Handers came 2 days after he pulled off the upset of the tournament by beating former US Open champion and three-time finalist Daniil Medvedev in a 5-set thriller. That's all for this edition of DD India News Hour. Let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. For those on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on DD India mobile app. This app is available on both Android and iOS platforms. Scan this QR code on the screen to download now. And we'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Shubhendu Ghosh from all of us here in Delhi. Thanks for watching DD India News Hour. Namaskar.